Hi, I'm Brian Miller, Senior Vice President and Game Producer at Paramount Pictures, and you're watching Eurogamer.
Captain's Log, Stardate, March the 1st, 2013. This is Captain Ian Higton reporting for the USS Eurogamer. I'd been invited to a hands-on press event for Star Trek the Game, and after watching an hour-long presentation on how authentic an experience the game was, I sat down in front of a console running the 3D version. I put on the 3D glasses and began to immerse myself in the world of Star Trek. I chose to control Kirk, and then suddenly I was there. I was inside the crew quarters of the USS Enterprise, with its decor and style instantly familiar to anyone who's seen the recent movie or even the old TV shows. I led Kirk towards a wall, wanting to explore this authentic location, and as he reached his destination, I continued to press forward, wanting to examine the textures close up. Suddenly, the camera pushed itself inside Kirk's head. Now I wasn't just inside the Enterprise, I was inside Kirk. I could see his eyes and tongue floating freakishly inside the hollow sphere of his cranium, a sight made even more jarring thanks to the 3D effect. And then, 30 seconds after starting the game, all immersion was ruined. Oh.
I like this one. There are a few that you do not like, Captain.
Here's Brian Miller, Senior Vice President and Game Producer at Paramount Pictures, to tell us more about Star Trek the Game.
Our goal was to make the most authentic Star Trek game you could, and the only way we could do that was to work with everybody that worked on the last film. So when you walk through the Enterprise and you sit down on the bridge and you sit in the captain's chair, you're really sitting and looking at and interacting with the same environments that we used from the film. So we worked with everybody from the special effects company up at ILM to the sound effects guys, the costume designers, the creature designers. You're hearing music in the game that was composed by Michael Giacchino and his team, which did the music from the last film. He's an Academy Award-winning composer. To bring brand new music to a game like this really elevates it for us. We're working with the entire cast of the film, so when you hear Kirk and Spock and Uhura and Scotty, you're hearing Chris Pine and Zach Quinto, Zoe Saldana and Simon Pegg, and that really brings that level of authenticity up, and it really makes the experience exactly what you'd want in a game, which is it feels like Star Trek.
Get the hell out of my way! Captain.
Our game takes place after the events of the 2009 film. Kirk and Spock and the rest of the crew have come together, and now they're out on one of their major missions. They get called to answer a distress signal from a starbase that's being ripped apart by these two binary stars. Once they're on the ship, they sort of learn that the Vulcans have been trying to rebuild their planet on New Vulcan and sort of repopulate their race that's been destroyed after, what happened on their 2009 film. And we get thrown right into that adventure, and we get to introduce our Gorn, who are these amazing characters that fans know and love from the early episodes, and we get to bring them back into our world.
You've done a great job at replicating existing elements of the Star Trek universe, but have you been able to create and add anything brand new to the game?
Not only are we showing fans a lot of things that they know and love, like their costumes and their weapons and the phasers, but we're bringing some new things to them as well. So in the game, you'll get to play as Kirk and Spock. You get these great new jumpsuits that you can use to do these space flights. Captain Kirk has a brand new phaser that was modeled after a 60s sort of cowboy six-shooter, because that really is who his character is, this sort of brash cowboy, whereas Spock has these great Vulcan weapons that you've only seen for the first time in our game. Also locations. We've explored a lot of the Enterprise in our films, but there are areas that we can take the gamer to in our game that you can't do in a movie. So we get to show you the crew quarters, we get to show you the turbo lift shafts, and what would happen if a creature like the Gorn was sort of running loose on the Enterprise. It's areas in the game that we can keep both familiar to the players, so they feel like they're really living Star Trek, but also broaden that out a little bit so they feel like they're getting something new and exciting.
Mr. Scott, prepare to transport. Aye, aye, sir.
The co-op element is very important to this game, and with both Kirk and Spock playable, can you explain their unique abilities?
One of the most important parts of our game was to try to find a way that Kirk and Spock could be different. We wanted a little bit of a different experience if you played as each one of these characters, and if you're Kirk, we wanted a moment where, as a captain of probably the greatest Starfleet vessel of all time, in the Enterprise, if you were trapped by the Gorn, you could call down an airstrike. Well, we looked at Spock. What does Spock have that's unique to him? And one of his things is his great ability to mind meld and sort of read, another character's mind. And we have moments in the game where not only do you have to mind meld against, some of fellow Vulcans who may have, been infected by the Gorn, but there's a great moment where you actually get to mind meld a Gorn. And that's a great moment to change up gameplay, to show the gamer from a different perspective of what things are, because you're looking at it through the eyes of a Gorn. It's the only way that the story could be told during that section, and it's a great sort of fun gameplay.
So is the game a straight-up action shooter, or will there be any RPG or customization elements?
We are a third-person, action-adventure game. We are a third-person shooter. We are not an RPG, but there is a lot of customization that can happen. For example, if you use your tricorder, which is so iconic to what Star Trek was, it's this great piece of technology that you can use to interact with the world around you. If, while you're playing the game, you use your tricorder to sort of explore these species and the weapons and sort of the environments and plants and fauna that you come across, you'll get experience points. And that experience points can upgrade both your phaser, so you can do things with that you wouldn't be able to do normally, or upgrade your tricorder, which allows you to bypass certain mini games or to heal your partner who may be, hurt from a fight from a much farther distance. So there's a lot of sort of that customization that goes on as well.
Aliens Colonial Marines has really sullied the image of games based on sci-fi franchises. What can you say to Star Trek fans to assure them that this game will not be as huge a disappointment as ACM?
Well, we wanted to make sure that when you play this game, that it actually felt like Star Trek. It didn't feel like there was just sort of a wrapper put on it, and it was a game that was reskinned. This is a game that when you play, and one of the best compliments we got not only from tonight's show, but when we were at E3 and Gamescom in the past, was people walked out of the demo and said, I felt like I watched Star Trek. I felt like I watched 15 minutes of a movie. That's the hardest thing for us to do, and we think fans are going to be really excited by what we're going to bring in for them.
Just playing the game for 5 minutes was enough to tell me what had happened here. With Paramount putting all their time and budget into making the game look, sound and feel like an authentic experience, the gameplay has sadly taken a back seat, and at least in the preview levels I played, it's all terribly bland and uninspiring. The inclusion of co-op could have introduced some great gameplay elements, but instead it mainly boils down to both players having to mash X at the same time to open a door. Played solo, the computer-controlled co-op character would spin on the spot or glide into place when ordered to open the 50th block door on the Enterprise, and it really is sad to see because this type of lazy gameplay development ruins the immersion so excellently crafted through the authentic locations and use of audio assets. The shooting mechanics and climbing sections that make up the core of the action are lightweight clones of games like Gears of War and Uncharted, but with minimal flair or imagination. They've even shoehorned in boring, generic hacking minigames which can, in solo mode, be completely skipped by ordering your computer-controlled partner to unlock them for you instantly, signified by the utterly ridiculous text, "Press Y to Spock unlock," popping up on the screen whenever you approach a control panel. Overall, the gameplay felt just as hollow to me as Kirk's head did when I unexpectedly entered it during my first 30 seconds of playtime. For a fan of the modern Star Trek movies, it looks like Star Trek the game will be awesome. You'll get to explore the Enterprise and meet all your favourite characters, all voiced by the actual movie actors. But if you're a gamer who wants a solid, exciting, innovative sci-fi shooter, or just even a fan of old school Star Treks only, then I'd suggest you make sure this one stays in a galaxy far, far away, because in my opinion, and based on what I've seen and played, Paramount have been successful at making a great companion to the J.J. Abrams movies, but they failed at making an exciting game. Beam me up, Scotty.
If we weren't trying to save the entire universe, this might actually be fun.
For more exclusive previews and interviews, please do subscribe to Eurogamer by clicking on the annotation that's on screen now. It really would be illogical if you didn't.